Short answer first. Contraceptives reduce risk. They don't erase responsibility. Treat them as tools, not tickets. Here's a clear, step-by-step unpacking of why that's true and what it means in practice. 1. The biological facts. Simple and true. No contraceptive method is 100% effective. Hormonal methods and IUDs are very reliable when used correctly, but human error, interactions with other medicines, and rare failures happen. Condoms lower pregnancy risk and are the only method that also reduces the risk of many sexually transmitted infections, STIs. Relying on a single method without communication or backup leaves both partners exposed to biological consequences. 2. Emotional and life consequences are real. Pregnancy, unintended or planned, changes lives, finances, education, careers, mental health, and relationships. Even when contraception works medically, the emotional aftermath of risky sex, regret, trust issues, anxiety, can linger. Responsibility means thinking forward about those real, long-term outcomes before you act. 3. Consent and respect are separate issues. Having contraception available never replaces clear, informed consent. Consent must be mutual, enthusiastic, and given while both people are able to make decisions, not impaired by drugs or extreme intoxication. Using contraception doesn't license ignoring a partner's boundaries or comfort. 4. Practical, logical steps to act responsibly. Talk before sex. A quick conversation about protection and expectations avoids most problems. Agree on methods. Decide together. Condoms, pill, implant, IUD, or a combination. Use dual protection when appropriate. Condoms plus. Another method covers pregnancy risk and STIs. Get tested and share results. Knowing each other's STI status is responsible and mature. Know your backups. Emergency contraception exists and can reduce pregnancy risk if used shortly after unprotected sex. Know where to get it and how it works. Plan for mistakes. Have a plan for unexpected outcomes. Where to seek medical help, who to talk to, and steps to take emotionally and legally if needed. 6. A few final, clear truths. Contraceptives are necessary and helpful, but imperfect. They are not a substitute for communication, consent, or respect. Being responsible is practical. It reduces harm, preserves trust, and avoids avoidable consequences. 1. The basic facts. No method is perfect. Contraceptive methods differ widely in how much they reduce pregnancy risk and how much that reduction depends on correct, consistent use. Short summary of typical use reality. Oral pills. The patch and the ring have notable typical use failure rates, commonly cited around 7% per year for typical use. Injectables are lower, but still non-zero, while long-acting reversible contraception, such as IUDs and implants, have failure rates well under 1% with typical use. These are not academic details. They're the measurable probabilities that should inform behavior and planning. Why that matters logically? A method's perfect use rate, how it performs in ideal conditions, is only part of the picture. Real people miss pills, delay refills, have vomiting, diarrhea after a dose, or take interacting medicines, all of which move outcomes closer to the typical use numbers. Treating perfect use rates as guarantees is logically flawed. Probability. Human error. Residual risk. 2. Condoms. Essential for STIs, imperfect for everything else. Condoms are unique because they reduce both pregnancy risk and the transmission risk of many STIs, including HIV, gonorrhea, and chlamydia, but their protection is not absolute. Correct and consistent use determines effectiveness, and condoms provide less reliable protection against infections transmitted by skin-to-skin contact, e.g. HPV and herpes, than against fluid-borne infections. User errors, slippage, breakage, incorrect application, are major contributors to failure. In short, condoms are necessary for STI risk reduction and still important for pregnancy prevention, but they are not infallible. 3. Emergency contraception is a backup, not a planner. Emergency contraception, ECPs, e.g. levonorgestrel pills or ulipristal acetate and the copper IUD, can reduce the probability of pregnancy after unprotected sex, but timing is crucial. Pills are most effective the sooner they're taken, generally up to 72 to 120 hours depending on the pill. And the copper IUD is the single most effective emergency option when inserted within the recommended window. Relying on ECPs routinely is riskier than using regular well-chosen contraception. 4. Drugs, biology, and human behavior change the math. Some medicines, notably rifamycin antibiotics and certain enzyme-inducing drugs such as some anticonvulsants or HIV medications, can reduce the effectiveness of hormonal contraceptives. Illnesses that cause vomiting or severe diarrhea can prevent pill absorption. Add to that inconsistent adherence, missed pills, late injections, and you quickly see why a method that works statistically can still fail for an individual. The correct logical response is risk management. No interactions, plan backups, and treat contraception as a system, not a single switch. 5. Probability permission. The ethics and real consequences. A low probability of pregnancy is still a real possibility with real consequences. Financial strain, interruption of education or career plans, emotional and relational fallout, and legal parenting responsibilities. From a rational decision theory perspective, when the stakes are high, even low probabilities should change behavior. You don't base a life decision on, "it probably won't happen." This is elementary expected value thinking. The expected cost of a low probability, high impact event can be large enough to justify preventive measures. Communication, dual protection, testing, emergency planning. Example: if a method has a 1% failure rate per year and many couples have repeated exposures across months, the cumulative risk grows. Treating that 1% as negligible is mathematically and morally questionable. 6. Consent and honesty are separate but connected responsibilities. Having contraception does not replace the need for clear, informed consent. Consent must be affirmative, mutual, and ongoing, not assumed. Deceiving someone about contraception, lying about use, sabotaging a condom, falsely claiming STI negative status, is a violation of trust and autonomy, and can be criminal in many jurisdictions. Ethical sexual behavior requires both risk management and clear, honest communication about expectations, protection, and testing. 7. Practical, logical rules to act responsibly. A checklist. Talk first. Ask about methods, STI history, and expectations before sex. Plain language saves a lot of harm. Use dual protection when risk of STIs matters. Condom plus, another method, pill, implant, IUD, covers both pregnancy and many STIs more effectively than one method alone. No interactions and side conditions. If you or your partner are prescribed rifampin class antibiotics, certain anticonvulsants, or start herbal remedies like St. John's wort, check with a clinician about backup contraception. Have a backup plan. Know where emergency contraception and local sexual health services are, and act quickly if needed. Test and share results. Regular STI testing reduces uncertainty and is a sign of mutual respect. CDC. Frame competence publicly. If you've been the emotional or financial planner in a relationship, learn to signal that competence. Small, visible steps. Booking appointments, buying condoms, paying for tests, count. 8. 2 short, realistic vignettes. Examples that clarify the point. Vignette A. The "I'm on the pill" assumption. Alex hears "she's on the pill" and assumes pregnancy risk is nil. He misses that she's been prescribed rifampin for TB, which lowers hormonal levels, and she missed a week's pills because of vomiting. Months later, there's an unplanned pregnancy. The chain of human errors and drug interactions is what produced the outcome, not divine misfortune. Knowing about interactions, talking openly, or using a condom would have changed the calculus. Vignette B. The condom is all we need. Assumption. Nia uses condoms consistently, but is with a partner who has persistent HPV. Condoms reduce transmission risk, but do not eliminate it for skin-to-skin STIs. Vaccination, where available. Testing and honest conversations about long-term risks are reasonable steps. Assuming no condom, no risk, misunderstands how infections work. Contraceptives are powerful, but they are risk reducers, not absolutions. A rational approach treats contraception the way we treat other important life systems. Identify failure modes, add redundancy where consequences are large, communicate clearly, and plan for contingencies. Ethically, respectful sex requires more than tools. It requires honesty, consent, and shared responsibility. Practically, that means talk, dual protection where appropriate, knowledge about interactions and emergency options, and timely testing. That combination is both smart and humane.